Dying Light 2 patch 1.2 is now officially live, unfortunately just on PC. I mean, if you've been watching these update videos, you should know by now, when it comes to these updates, PC gets it first, console gets it a couple days to a week later. The reason being, again, to make it simple, is because whenever Techland has to push out these updates, they need a week in advance for Microsoft and Sony to approve of it. Valve doesn't need such a thing, so they just automatically go through, in case you were wondering as to why PC always gets their stuff first. But this update is quite beefy. We got things from story progression fixes, co-op fixes, Night Runner tool fixes, combat improvements, ragdoll behavior changes, improvements and balances to nighttime, HUD changes, improvements to the final boss fight, balance tweaks, technical improvements, and so many other things. Now, I played a little bit just to see what was 100% fixed or not, and truth be told, this is something that's kind of hard to completely see what is 100% fixed, because it seems like the experience when it comes to Dying Light 2 has been so vast. You know, some people, as soon as the game launched, have had co-op problems and still to this day cannot play co-op, which hopefully this recent update has fixed. But I personally never had any co-op issues whatsoever. I never had audio cutting out, at least not on PC. Other people have audio cutting in and out all the time. People got stuck on main story missions, side quests. Others had buggy inventories, which I never got. So it's hard to completely say what has and hasn't been fixed. I think you would have to go in yourself and see if you had a problem that was consistently messing with your game to see if that's been addressed or not. If not, I would say maybe uninstall, reinstall the game. I don't know if it still works if you delete saved data, you know, completely wipe your system. If anything, I would say if you go that route, back up your save data so that way you don't have to do everything all over again. And then of course you can always submit a ticket over to Techland to try and tell them exactly what the problem is. But something I can confirm that still happens is when you initiate fast travel, there is a good chance you will appear under the map. This is new footage that happened this morning, so that's good to see that, you know, the floor still doesn't work. Yeah, it's about as reliable as your sex life in a loveless marriage, so that's good. You know, it's always nice to have your game relatable to real life, right? Let's talk about these changes. First and foremost, we have our new HUD. Since day one, what people have been asking for is an immersive HUD, the ability to take things off your screen, your health bar, stamina bar, time of night, crosshair, or even have the ability to pick and choose what is and isn't on your screen. We have that now. You know, if you don't want your time of night there, you don't want your dot crosshair, your stamina bar, your health bar, enemies' health bars, whether infected or humans, you can now pick and choose what's on your screen. Some of the stuff you can also now make dynamic, which is great. You know, I think a dynamic HUD is the best way to go, especially since they made it where if you hold the extended HUD option, everything automatically just pops up, so you don't have to go back to your settings and activate or deactivate anything. You can kind of just cheat, hold that button down, and everything pops up, which I really like. They also changed the colors a little bit. Before the update, enemy health bars were kind of a little bit more bright red. Their stamina bar underneath was blue. That's been changed up. Now it's more of a neutral red, a little bit more faded, not as vibrant, and that stamina bar is now white. I guess that's meant to fit in with the whole aesthetic of the game. The game's very colorful, and you know, my gameplay is obviously very vibrant, so it doesn't make that much of a difference in my gameplay, but it was a neat change, I guess. I would take that as Techland still paying attention to the small nuances of their own game. I also want to make it clear, I actually don't have any mods active in the game with the exception of an extended FOV slider, which I'm assuming because we got the HUD changes so quickly that we'll probably be seeing that FOV slider into next-gen consoles within this patch or next patch, depending on whenever it ever finally goes live on next-gen consoles. But let's move over to something that impacts gameplay a little bit more, specifically nighttime. Now, one of the biggest criticisms people have been saying, obviously, is that nighttime is way too easy in Dying Light 2. Techland has made some changes to try and make it a little bit more engaging, a little bit more difficult. One of them, I gotta say, really helps, which is they improved biter behavior. They mentioned that they specifically improved it during the day, but I noticed that it seems to be much more aggressive at night as well. You know, I'm getting grappled, I'm getting attacked, I'm getting stopped in my tracks more, which is great. It really makes you rely a little bit more on things like wall running or getting around your environment any other way besides going over or barely shoveling to the side to get around that biter like you could have before. They've also slightly changed the howler. Its range senses have increased, the howler's resistance to ranged weapons have also increased, and if you hit a howler with a ranged weapon and it didn't kill it, it automatically initiates a chase. Throw on top of that, the volatiles come out of hiding spots faster during the chase, and level 4 chases are now supposedly harder. On paper, it seems like nighttime is much more challenging, right? Well, not really, especially if you have tools like the grappling hook or the paraglider. This is some gameplay of me running around in Old Villador, and throw in the fact that it still takes way too long to hit a level 4 chase. Again, you have to actively be trying to hit it. If not, you'll never hit that level. You'll be lucky to hit 2, or unlucky enough to hit 2, I should say. But again, that's just you kind of testing the limits. It's not like the game is really trying to hit that higher level. It's more like you're trying to push the game to become much more engaging, much more aggressive, a lot more punishing. And I think for nighttime to be much more difficult, that timer has to be shortened. If not, it will never be that challenging. And kind of circling back to what I was saying with the paraglider and grappling hook, if you use that to get around, you're still going to be losing the chases very quickly. Or even if you're decent enough at parkour in of itself, right here, I managed to break away from the chase. I've said in the past, if you jump from rooftops quick enough, volatiles kind of freeze in their place. So I broke off the chase, they couldn't keep up with me, and for a solid 30 seconds to a minute, there was nothing on me. I almost want to say that everything despawned. Like, it felt like nothing was on me. It wasn't until I went out of my way to initiate a fight somewhere else that randomly everything spawned on top of me. So I don't know if I broke something or everything was just waiting to catch up to me, or that's how the system is meant to work, where you finally stop in place and everything just shows up. I honestly don't know, but either way, I think it's going to still take some time for the game to really be that level of challenging that people really want it to be. As of now, I think it's a step in the right direction. But like I said, it's still going to take quite some time. That might be something that may be worked in once we finally get that New Game Plus, whenever that shows up. New Game Plus, photo mode, FOV slider, I mean, it's just a long list of more things to do behind things that arguably should have already been in the game, like cross-gen, cross-play, dynamic HUD. Anyways, before we finish up on the improvements, I want to talk about the combat and how it feels now. Technically, I don't want to say reworked the combat system to a degree, but they did make some nice changes. Blunt weapons now have a sense of weight behind it. Improved enemy reaction based off the type of weapon that you're holding. Sharp weapons are much more precise. There's now blood splatters that show up on walls, on the ground. People have been very critical in how ragdoll looks in this game, and according to this update, they made it quote-unquote much more natural. It feels the same, but what I did notice is there's some improved sound effects based off what the body is hitting. Like if you drop kick a zombie into a metal fence, the sound of the body hitting that metal fence is much more pronounced, or the body hitting the side of a building. Personally speaking, this was never an issue within my experience, but seeing how Oliver Deviere is really taking feedback and looking into improving the nuances and the subtleties of the game's soundtrack, the fact that Techland is going back and doing their own improvements on the overall sound design of the game and how the environments and everything is heard and received by the player, I think is phenomenal. I mean, it's still a question though, is that something that should have been done before the game launches, or is that something that just improves the quality of life post-launch? Personally, that's a question I want to pass on to you. You think that's something that's a little too late? Did you have any issues or complaints with the sound design prior to this? How do you feel about them going back and doing this? Personally, I like it, but again, it brings a question of, should that have been done already before the game launched? Now let's talk about co-op fixes. Again, I never suffered from any problems, but they should be much better, ranging from performance issues to connectivity issues to how the final boss fight in phase 2 interacted with multiple people or more than one person. They addressed people spawning in distant locations or falling through the ground, or story blocks and your game glitching out and you guys wouldn't be able to progress. I've talked in the past that was something that I've had no issues as far as connectivity, but I did have a problem where I was launched into the sky. When I came back down, me and my friend could not progress in the story. It just bugged out completely. That should be fixed. Hanging cages, loot chests, NPC rescue issues, windmills, all of those replication problems should all be addressed. Death loops should be completely eliminated for all existing cases and preventing any future cases from happening. Now, if you want to go a little bit more in depth into patch 1.2, I will leave a link down in the description, but that is the majority of what is going on here. Like I said, quite beefy. I'm going to experiment a little bit more with this, see what else has changed. It feels like the grappling hook has been changed very slightly, but I want to experiment with that just a little bit more before I open my mouth. But let me know what you guys think about all this. Have you guys even been playing Dying Light 2 as of lately? We got Elden Ring, Horizon Forbidden West, Shadow Warrior 3. There's been an insane amount of games that have just been pining for your attention, and I want to hear where you're at right now. But like always, guys, my name is Cynic. Thank you all so much for watching. Special shout out to my patrons, DJ Steph, Woodcrafted Essentials, Yorkyard Ask, and of course Grim Reaper. If you guys want to support me further as well, Patreon link is always down in the description. If not, feel free to join the Discord. There's just shy of 3,000 members, people talking, playing video games ranging from Elden Ring, Dying Light 2, Halo Infinite, Call of Duty. I mean, you name it, you're bound to hear some type of game people are playing in there, so feel free to take a look. Until next time, I'll see y'all later.